Welcome to our JavaScript web course. In this video, we will learn about JavaScript arrays. An array is a way of storing a list of items. It holds more than one value in a variable. The different items can be of different data types. Each item is called an element, and the elements are referenced by an index number or their position in the list. Indexed positions start at 0, and because they use a variable to identify the array, we use the same naming rules as we do for variables. There are two ways to create an array. One way is using the Array Constructor. So let's take a look at the syntax. Here I have my let keyword, and I am declaring a variable called array name. That would be the name of my array. On the right-hand side of the equal symbol, or the assignment operator, I have the keyword new, followed by array with two parentheses. Notice that is an uppercase A. This is the array object. And what we are doing, we are creating a new instance of that array object and storing it in the variable. So the new keyword is technically the constructor. We can also create an array using what is called literal notation. This is much simpler. Here we have the let keyword followed by the variable name. And on the right-hand side of the assignment operator, we have two square brackets, or straight braces. People call these characters different things. I call them brackets. In both of these, we are creating an array, and the array name variable will hold the value of the different items. Let's look at using the array constructor. Here I have my let keyword, and my array name is the variable fruit array. I have the assignment operator, the new keyword, and inside the parentheses of the array object, I have 4 items. These are all literals, therefore they have quotations around them, and they are all comma separated. You can create an array and populate it at the same time in the same statement. Notice this is a statement, so it has a semicolon at the end of it. Now, this is fine if you only have a couple of items and they are 1 or 2 words. However, in most cases, you will have more than 4 items. You might want to use the longer syntax. So here I will create my array first, and I will populate it next. So the first statement creates this array called fruit array. And then I populate each element. After the variable name fruit array, I have my brackets, and inside the bracket I have the number 0, which indicates this is the first item or first element in my array. Now I assign it a value. We have fruit array 1, we assign it a value. Fruit array 2, we assign it a value. Fruit array 3, we assign it a value. This is my preferred way of populating and creating an array. I think by listing each element separately, it makes it easier to see what you're working with. The only time you will ever see brackets being used in JavaScript are with arrays. So when you see them, it is referring to an array or an array element. Now we will do the same thing using the array literal notation. Here we are declaring our variable fruit array, and we are assigning it the values inside the brackets. Notice that we do not have the new keyword or the array object word here. Again, this is one statement. We have a semicolon at the end. We also could create the array first and then populate it as we have seen previously. Just like you can test the value of a variable, you can test the value of your array. And here I'm using the console, so fruit array will return the 4 items in my array. You can also retrieve the individual value of any array element. All you have to do is to use the variable with the array element index in the square brackets, and that will return the value of that element. The array has a very useful length property. And here we have the expression fruitarray.length. That will return the number of elements in this array, and notice that is number 4. There are 4 elements in this array. Counting starts at 0, so the last indexed element would be a 3. The length is always 1 more than the last index position. Because arrays are index-based, we can easily retrieve the values using a for loop. The reason we would use a for loop is because we probably want to do some formatting or other processing inside that for loop to nicely display them on the page. So here I'm setting up a variable called result, and I will be storing values in this variable. Here is my fruit array, which we have already seen. Inside my for loop, I will initialize my I counter to 0. Now the condition, I less than fruit array.length, we can automatically determine the length of the array. It makes it very easy to know how many times we need to loop. Now I have my I++. As I loop through this array, I am adding the elements concatenated with a BR element. And if you look at my display in the web page, you can see everything is nicely stacked up. However, in the console, you see everything running across, including the BR element. The array object has many methods that enable us to manipulate the array. The join method allows us to combine all of the elements into a single string with a separator character. So here I have fruitarray.join, and if I were to store that value in a variable, I could display that value on the web page, as you see here. If I wanted to use a different separator, I can indicate that separator in the parentheses. As it stands, the default is a comma. Because this is a method, it is followed by 2 parentheses. Methods are always followed by parentheses, and many times you pass arguments in those parentheses. The pop method will remove the last element of the array, and it will return that element if you need it. So fruitarray.pop will return oranges because that was the last element that was removed. And now my new array only has 3 elements. The push method adds an element to the end of the array, and it will return the new length if needed. So here I have 2 variables. I'm storing fruitarray.push in one, and then the new array, fruitarray.join, in another variable. So I am going to add kiwi to my array. So I have fruitarray.push, and in the parentheses I have kiwi in quotes because it is a literal. Now that will return 5. That expression will return 5. However, when I display fruitarray.join, we can see the new array, and we can see kiwi is now the last element. The shift method is kind of like the opposite of pop. It removes the first element, and it will return the new array if you need it to. So here we have fruitarray.shift, and it will remove that array element. And here we see that it did remove apples. And now I am using the join method on my fruit array, and you can see that I only have 3 elements. The unshift method is kind of like the opposite of push. It will add an element to the beginning and it will return the new length if you want it to. Here I have fruitarray.unshift kiwi, so I'm going to add kiwi to the beginning. I store that in a variable, and that expression will return the new length. And then if I execute the statement fruitarray.join, it will show me the new array, and we can see that kiwi indeed has been placed at the beginning of that array. So here's a little comparison of these first 4 methods that we looked at, because they are all kind of related. Unshift adds to the beginning, push adds to the end, shift removes the first item, pop removes the last item. The reverse method will reverse the order of the elements. So here I have 2 statements. First I have fruitarray.join showing you the default order. Now I have fruitarray.reverse, which shows that indeed the order was reversed. The sort method will sort the elements in alphabetical order. Here I have the 2 statements, fruitarray.join, which shows me my original array, and then I'm executing fruitarray.sort, which shows me the new order in alphabetical order. The concat method enables you to combine the elements of 2 or more arrays into a new array. We have our original fruit array, and now I have fruit array 2. So I'm creating a new variable, all fruits equals fruitarray.concat, and in the parentheses we have fruit array 2. It is a variable, so there are no quotations around it, and the result, as you can see, has combined both of those arrays. The slice method allows us to return or extract or slice a specific section of the array and then create a new array with it. So we can take part of the array out and create a new array with it. The original array does not change. So here I have a new variable, yellow fruit, and I have fruitarray.slice. This method takes 2 arguments or parameters. The first is the position where we start. So I am starting at position 1, which is pairs. It will include position 1. The second argument is where we stop. So we will go up to but not include 3, meaning we will take index position 1 and 2. If you look at the result of our variable, you can see that indeed we do have those 2 elements in our array. Finally, we have the splice method, which also takes 2 arguments. This one's a little complicated. It actually does 2 things. It will add elements depending on what those arguments are, or it will remove elements depending on what those arguments are. So let's take a look at the first example. Here I have fruitarray.splice 1, 0. If the second argument is a 0, it will add what follows to the position of the first argument. So my first argument is 1. I have a 0 following with kiwi and coconut. So kiwi and coconut will be added to position 1. And you see the result here, and you can see that indeed they were added. If the second position is a number, then we will remove however many items is specified in that second number at the starting position of the first number. So here I have fruitarray.splice 1, 1. So I will remove 1 item at position 1. If you look at our original array up here, that item was pairs. And now if you look at our result after the splice method was executed, you see that pairs is no longer in our array. So these are some commonly used methods. There are some newer ones added, which are in the book. There is a file available for every slide that was shown in the presentation, so you can actually test this code and work with it on your own.